Hi everyone. So we're going to talk about social responses and how sometimes it seems like whenever people respond to certain things, it may not be in the best light of that person, or they wanted a very particular response, but what happens is it shines a negative aspect on that person or that group of people. So we're going to talk about society nowadays versus society way back then, more focused on nowadays versus back then, because if you think about it, society has changed. The construct of how we interact with people has changed quite a bit. So back then, if you think about why a group of people went to war, they did it to build an empire. It was imperialistic in a sense, whereas like they wanted to own a big, humongous population, a big, humongous territory. Just think of the Greek city-states, or wow, it goes to history lessons, and next thing you know, I grow a blank. The Peloponnesian Wars. All these were about expanding territory and controlling a large territory. Why? So that they could integrate the world into a culture, and it was that mindset back then. So wars happened because of it. A lot of deaths occurred, and so forth. And a lot of animosity occurs because of these wars. Let's kind of fast forward a little bit to the time of Hitler, how concentration camps occurred, the Jewish population that was interned because of it. It was a very, very negative aspect of the Jewish culture, as well as German philosophies at the time. Nowadays, we consider it such a terrible, terrible thing. And because of that, the Jewish culture that has lived on since then has this animosity, all this anger towards, and all this negative perspective towards some of that particular culture. If I will say, if I was in their shoes, I would probably have the same negative perspective as well too. Go being human. So let's talk about, fast forward to nowadays. In the past few years, you have all these negative impact when it comes to racism still. You hear a lot of, on the news and social media, about a police officer brutalizing somebody, and because of it, it causes a lot of negative social impact, and it caused a lot of anger across the United States of America. And more than likely, people who see this in the light is like, hey, police brutality, so forth as well too. So what happens because of it? We get all these demonstrations, all these protests, and all this, once again, animosity that occurs with it. And of course, a small pocket of people will always look at it in a very different slight, and we'll call it that way for a second. You look at somebody who wants to harm you. If they have the opportunity to harm you, in the sense, you're not going to be happy, you're going to be injured, you're going to be hurt, and you're going to want to harm them. Revenge, vengeance, whatever you want to call it, it's the fair deal. Do unto others as they do unto you. They hurt you, you hurt them, right? Well, that's the key thing about society is the golden rule applies both negative and positive, and there's more to the golden rule. Everyone hears the point of the golden rule that says, hey, do unto others as they do unto you. Nobody hears the rest of the golden rule. I would recommend everybody look up the rest of the golden rule. But once again, that rule or so, when you just apply that part of it, and that's what society applies, is hey, do good to others and others will do good to you, vice versa. So that's the gist of what the whole aspect of it, and that was the goal of it, is to look at that part of the golden rule. So let's look at this, the side of vengeance or so. So this particular situation where you have, police brutality, and what does the community do? They band together, they build demonstrations, they fight for equal rights still, so that they are not perceived in such a negative fashion compared to other cultures, other demographics, other people. And I'm saying it this way mainly because this is the perspective of humanity, is to look at ethnicities, races, or whatever it is, people. You can call it whatever it is you want, but the fact is people are different. And not being able to accept it and express that difference, well, we're not robots. So it's not necessarily that everyone has to be equal, but everybody has to be given a fair opportunity, a fair chance. That's the equality. But you can accept the fact that, hey, somebody from China is gonna observe their Chinese New Year. Somebody who is from a Jewish persuasion is gonna observe Hanukkah. Somebody from Britain, the preference might be for warm teas and hot teas versus iced tea, and so forth. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? No, it's just a thing, and you just have to accept that people do different things. So let's talk about the whole point of all of that. My perspective is very, very simple. Just because somebody does something that I don't like to me, do I do the same thing to them? I hate to say it this way, of course not. And the reason why I say of course not, I wouldn't do the same thing to them. Just think of the police brutality, and you have these groups or so that are, ambushing police officers and killing them because of that particular situation. I get it. It's anger. It makes somebody angry. It makes somebody upset. So they do it to this particular person. So these people decided to do it to them as well too. Fair is fair. Revenge is revenge. Vengeance is vengeance. Anger is anger. Those are human emotions. You can't get rid of them. But can you look at it at the perspective of, well, just because this person does this to this person in such a negative fashion, and it's terrible when that happens. It really is. And these people do this. What is it telling society as a whole? Because that's what society sees. It doesn't see. It sees the one police officer or the group of police officers who use force inappropriately. Well, what about the other 99% of police officers? They do their jobs well. They protect our communities. But this 1% of police officers who overutilize their authority, yeah, it's bad. And it deters from all the good ones. Similarly, the persons who ambush these police officers, you're looking at a very, very small portion of them compared to the entire whole of the community. This one person only accounts for maybe 0.5% of that entire community that would do something like that, or maybe even less than that. And the reality of it is, those things don't happen very often. So this is what the news, social media, puts on for people to see. And yeah, it does happen, but people see it as, oh my gosh, it happens so readily. Of the thousands and thousands and thousands of arrests that happen every day across the United States, not many of them are fatal. Most of them are very peaceful overall. And you don't see the peaceful because the news, if the news shows you a peaceful arrest, nobody's gonna watch them. So the news is a good and a bad thing. It shows arrests that might be inappropriate. And it shows that, hey, this group of police officers may need more education, may need more training, may need discipline, whatever it might be, might need to address their perspectives just a bit. Maybe the particular people who decide to ambush this police officer or whatever it is and murder this police officer, that police officer might have been part of the 99% of good officers. And what does this create for both sides? It creates animosity, it creates fear, it creates concern. So you have this community where now this group of people decided to ambush this police officer. Now you're going to have a bunch of police officers not wanting to go to this community in fear for their own lives. Yes, their job is to protect and serve, but they're not going to be crazy enough to all of a sudden hear that they need to go there to check on a questionable burglary in an area that they just got one of their members, their brothers, their police officers was ambushed and, let's just say, injured really bad or killed. I don't think any police officer would be stupid enough to try to go into that area without extra protection, without a heightened sense of security and concern. And these communities wonder why, oh, what happened to the police officers or those? They're there to protect us. Yeah, they're there to protect you, but they can't protect you if they're dead as well too. They can't protect you if somebody's shooting at them. They have to protect themselves first. That's just how it works. They're trained, that's great, but if somebody's shooting at them, they really can't drag people to safety if somebody's shooting at them. So all this animosity occurs because of social media, because of news, and that's what they show, and so that's what the perspective of society sees. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Technically, if you look at it, it makes society more fearful. It's propaganda. It creates a emotion, a air of negativity. If people like negativity, okay, so be it. But most of society doesn't really like that and places more fear on them. But of course, when I look at why I would never do that is because me as a person, as an adult, I'm not better than anyone, but I'm not going to stoop to their level. I have my own principles, like everybody else. I have my own beliefs. More than likely, I come from a world where I have nice things. I have my own entitlement as well too, and things that I feel like I might deserve. Maybe I don't deserve them, maybe I do, but everybody has their own opinions about being entitled. But once again, just because those entitlements occur, I look at it from the perspective is, hey, just because I see this over here or I see that over there, I look at it from the perspective of, okay, this happened in front of you. Society creates a big, humongous demonstration because of it, and these people take vengeance on a police officer probably for no reason, just because they have anger towards a situation that happened from this police officer. I hate to say it this way, but I would not stoop that low like these people would, because that makes me no better than the police officer who utilized way too much force, fatal force on somebody. They're doing the same thing. So the reality is they're no better than that police officer. Great for society, isn't it, to say, hey, we're no better than anybody else. Me, I look at people yelling at me, calling me names or whatever it is. I stand my ground. I don't yell back. Not because I can't yell back, not because I'm not willing to fight back, but I have to evaluate and say, hey, do I stoop to their level, or do I create something, or I impact this particular situation in a way that's going to be beneficial to me as a person, as well as maybe help this person grow to maybe understand, maybe see that same perspective I do, so that animosity, that anger, that resentfulness goes away. That's what I hope for. But I will never stoop to somebody else's lower level. I'm not above anyone else. I'm just not willing to be lower. than where I am at right now. And perspectives like that, situations like that, help me to realize that the world needs to understand that, yeah, we could, but why would you if you want to better the world, better the community? Don't stoop that low if you want to better your environment, the world around you, the people around you. Set the bar, set the example. Be the better of any situation. Why? Because when you do, even though it's that first time nothing happens because of it, consistency of doing that over and over again, and people see that standard, people see that bar, people see a ladder that they can climb up. In the long run, everybody will. And that's a good thing in the long run, is that that's exactly what would happen. Thank you.